Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and there will be hoopla associated with tonight's episode because we're going to have the head women's hoops coach, Blake Huber. We're going to have the head men's hoops coach, Brent Owen. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. The Greyhound football team led for most of the fourth quarter on Saturday against Midwestern State. Unfortunately, Midwestern won the game on a last-second field goal. Greyhound volleyball played two road matches at the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith, and Oklahoma Christian. Unfortunately, volleyball dropped both of those matches. On Saturday, Greyhound men's soccer, they tied. On Saturday, Greyhound women's soccer, they tied. And on Saturday, the Greyhound women's rodeo squad finished in 11th place at the Sul Ross Rodeo. Greyhound guys had their best showing of the year as they finished in 8th place at that event. Well, that will finish up an Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and I'll bring in my first guest, Blake Huber from Greyhound women's basketball, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring to the set of Sportslook for the very first time the head coach of Greyhound women's basketball, Blake Huber. And Blake, welcome to Sportslook.
Appreciate it, Doc, and what a privilege to be here. And been here obviously about 3 months now in Portales, and appreciate the time this evening, and excited to talk about our women's basketball program and all the exciting things we have ahead this year.
Coach, the first question I always ask a new guest, where are you from originally, and what was the process that got you to the head job at Eastern?
For sure, absolutely. So I was born in Atchison, Kansas. My father was a college basketball coach. He was coaching at Benedictine College at the time. So I was born in Atchison, Kansas. I lived in 6 different states growing up, just, moved around a lot, as a college, basketball coaching family. I went to high school in Omaha, Nebraska. My dad was coaching at Creighton University at the time. So I've been blessed. I've been around a lot of good basketball my whole life. And, I was a good high school basketball player. I was a lot better at baseball, had a lot of injuries. So, post high school, I just got right into college, coaching. I got my undergrad at Pittsburg State University in Pittsburg, Kansas. And then from there, my first full-time job was at Henderson State University in Arkadelphia. From there, I was at Texas Rio Grande Valley. I guess that was my first D1 taste, so to speak. So I was the recruiting coordinator there for 2 years. I was at Arkansas Tech University for 2 years, and then this last year I was the head coach at Texas A&M University at Texarkana NAIA. So I guess I've kind of experienced all levels. I've lived in a lot of different parts of the country, and at the end of the day, it's about the players. And how I got to Eastern is really believed in Dr. Weir's vision. I think, you found out in the first interview here how important women's basketball is and how much it means to this community. So you don't get that at a lot of places, So at the end of the day, when we're really pushing our players, those 6 a.m., 7 a.m. weight sessions, it means a little bit more to them because it means a little bit more to the community. And they want us to win. Dr. Weir from the start, wants this to be a special place for women's basketball. And I was thankful for the community and the hiring process committee to take the leap of faith and hire me. And what a great first 3 months it's been, and we're super excited for the season ahead.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Did you always know you wanted to be a coach?
That's a good question. So it's weird, because I didn't see my dad a ton growing up, because and I really like the Division II model because you can really still have a life in balance, in coaching and with your family. And, there were some Thanksgivings and Christmases I didn't see my dad, because he was just always gone and busy with his life. But, I think at the end of the day, I think coaching is so special because you have 18 to 23-year-olds in your hands to really mold them and get them prepared for the next step of their life. So, obviously I'm super competitive. I mean, we want to win, and we want to win at the highest level, but we also want our players to win in life. So I think the vision we have for our players we want to be the staff where in 5 years they call us when they get that big promotion, when they get married, when they have kids. So I think that's what I learned most growing up is, you really can mold young people's lives and hopefully impact them for the better, as they move along in their life.
So, what was the best word of advice that your dad ever gave you about coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, it's funny. So obviously, my dad's an old school guy. So the game evolves. Like my dad was a Bobby Knight guy. So like obviously, Bobby Knights don't work anymore. But I would say the best advice he really gave me is, if you're going to demand excellence and championship effort out of your players day in and day out, then your players better see that out of you and your staff. So I think we do a good job of really working extremely hard. Myself and my staff to, at the end of the day, our players are never going to question if we're putting our best foot forward for them. We're not perfect, like no one is. We make mistakes every day. Our players make mistakes every day. Everyone makes mistakes every day, but our players know how invested we are in them. And I think you'll see that on the floor on how hard we play because I think they truly see that we are invested in their lives and we want the best for them.
Obviously, this is a coaching position and one of the very best conferences in D2 in
Yep.
the nation. So, a lot of people had interest in this
Mhm.
position. What do you think was the deciding factor that got you the head coaching job?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're only as good as your players. I think I've been blessed to be around a lot of really good people. I think I've shown at the stops I've been, we can recruit high level student athletes. I think that's first and foremost. I think the recruiting connections that I have, I think, helps. I'd say secondly, I just think, it's a work ethic mentality. I just think, at the end of the day, I'm a solution based person. We're going to find a way to figure things out. And I think there's people that look at the problems in life, but they don't know the solutions. Well, let's identify the problems and let's get to the solutions. So I think that's secondly. And then, I think third, I think just I've been blessed. I don't like speaking about my resume a lot, but I've never been a part of an under 500 team. I don't know what losing looks like. I've never really lost anywhere I've been. And, I think at the end of the day, it's because of the players. I mean, I've had really good players. So, I think those kind of things are kind of hopefully what people see in the vision of our program and why I think we can be successful here.
So, when you get to Eastern New Mexico University, there's a certain process that takes place where you try to sell yourself to the players that are returning, but the players that are returning have to sell themselves to you. So, how did that process work out?
Yeah, for sure. I think, obviously we had four returning players. Deja was the first team all conference player. Ashley Shipley was, an honorable mention player. Julieta averaged 8 points a game, as a freshman, a true freshman. And then Alex was, a bench contributor for him. So I think first and foremost, it's, you got to recruit your current roster just as much as the roster you're going to bring in. So, those are my first calls. I mean, obviously, I had a recruiting list of kids that were, I was interested in bringing here, but I think at the end of the day, I think those four had a sour taste in their mouth on how last season ended, and I think they are motivated, to really try to pursue a championship here. And they've been our leaders in the weight room, Deja and Chip. They've been our leaders, on the practice floor, and it's made my job a lot easier. You're only as good as your leadership. I can lead and discipline all I want, but the player-led teams and disciplinarian teams through the players are what are the ones that usually win. So they've been phenomenal. I mean, they really have, and I think they'll both have really good years. And I think the good news for Deja and with her being first team all league last year is we don't need Deja to average 17 a game. We don't. We have other counter pieces. I think that, she doesn't have to have a ton of pressure to be the go-to player night in and night out. So I think she can play a little bit more freely this year because I think there's more talent around her. And I think that'll only help her excel. And then Chip, I mean, at the end of the day, we might see a lot of zone this year, and we have everyone in our gym has full confidence when she shoots the ball from three that it's going in. She works extremely hard on the floor in the weight room, individuals. She's a great teammate. And obviously she's a New Mexico kid. She's close to home and Eastern matters to her. So we're super excited. Hopefully Julieta, contributes, continues to rehab and gets better and, stronger and hopefully to 100% here as soon as possible. And then, Alex has been very, very energetic in practice every single day. And we're just blessed to really have those four back, and they've shown great leadership this preseason.
Obviously, getting hired when you did, you didn't have the optimal situation to recruit. So let's take a look at a normal year. What sort of balance do you look for? Are you going to go exclusively for JUCO, or are you going to try and get one and done's high school kids, or is it
Yeah.
going to be a mixture?
For sure, I think it has to be a mixture. I think at the end of the day, your blue blood D2 programs. You look at the Lubbock Christians, the Pitt States, the WTs, the Emporias, all those. I think your base has to be high school. We have 3 high school commitments so far. Obviously, I can't say their names because they haven't signed their GIAs yet, but we do have 3 high school commitments so far. We're looking to get one more. And then I think you try to go 50-50 or 60-40, somewhere in that range, because you look at college athletics these days, you got to stay somewhat old. If we just go sign 8 high school players, in the 24-25 season, we're going to play WT, who's got a bunch of 23-year-olds, and we have a bunch of 18-year-olds. So I think your identity's got to be high school players. I think, they're going to be a little bit more invested. They're going to be able to be a little bit more coachable, because I think the problem is at times, and our transfers have done a good job, but if you have kids that have been at 3 or 4 schools, well, coach, at this school, we did this. Well, we're not at that school anymore. We're here. So I think high school kids you can mold a little bit easier at times, but at the end of the day, we're going to work the transfer portal with some Division I transfers, and we do have some junior college connections that we'll throw in too. So, if you have to sign a class of 5 or 6, I think you're looking at 3 and 3, 4 and 2, something along those lines.
Well, Coach, in the 30 seconds we've got left, if there's one characteristic that your team is going to display if people go out and watch it, what's the one thing they're going to see?
Yeah, I'd say probably fun. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun at the end of the day, and our players know. What's fun is winning. So I think at the end of the day, I think I'd say 2 words is hardworking, I guess, quote unquote, and fun. I think those are the 2 things that night in and night out we're gonna provide.
Well, Coach, congratulations on getting the job. I can't wait to see your kids in action.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and go Greyhounds.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the first interview segment, so we'll clear the set in and we'll bring in someone from men's basketball right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we welcome back to the set of Sportslook the head coach of Greyhound men's basketball, Brent Owen. And Coach, we haven't had a chance to have you on since last March, and last March, Greyhound men's basketball did something that not many teams have done in the last 10 years, which was qualify for the Lone Star Conference postseason.
Yeah, great experience for our guys. Glad we made it. Wish it would have ended with a trophy in our hands, but it didn't. But I just think that, in the preseason, we were picked 15th out of 16 teams in the league, and we set a goal. And our goal that year was to make the conference tournament. We wanted to be in that top 8 and go experience what it's like over there in Dallas. And great experience for our guys. But this year it's a new team and a new goal. And I think now that we've kind of laid that foundation, the goal this year is certainly NCAA tournament.
We won't dwell very much on the past because, like I said, we always dwell in the here and now. But if you had to say there was one reason why you guys were as good as you were last year, what was that characteristic that got you all the wins?
We were tough. We had a tough group. We had a tough group of guys that were really fun to coach. They played hard. When you lead the league in defensive field goal percentage in the regular season, lead the league in rebounding, lead the league in offense rebounding, lead the league in steals, turnovers forced. We were still top 3 in the league in scoring. But those categories I mentioned at the beginning, those are, you got to be tough to do that and have some athleticism. And so I just think that we recruited tough guys and they trusted each other, and that led to a lot of success.
So we will fast forward to this season, and not only are there a number of new players, but you have a new assistant coach.
We do. Tyrone Grady joined us. He came by way of Coker University in South Carolina. Before that, he was at Seward County Community College. Coached a guy by the name of Greg Johnson, who was now a Greyhound and was all conference for us last year. So there's already a relationship there. And I had a guy that I could go to and ask, hey, what's Coach Grady like? And Greg Johnson loves that guy like no other. So that was obviously a really encouraging sign. And then our conversations went well. And then he was able to bring some recruits to the table right away, and has just been a great influence on our team so far. He's very disciplined, very tough. He's a truth teller. He's not going to sugarcoat things. And it's actually kind of taken a lot off my plate in terms of the discipline side, and allowed me to, maybe put my arm around him a little bit more, which I think will be good in the long run. So really glad to have him. And then we also hired a second assistant coach. So we have a second full-time assistant this year. His name is Cesar Flores. He came to us. He was a manager at New Mexico State, and then served as an assistant coach for a semi-professional team last year in Wichita. And then he was actually on staff heading into this fall at Northwestern State, a Division I school, as a graduate assistant, and then joined our staff. So glad to have Cesar here as well.
So in what ways are the two young men the same? In what ways are they different?
Well, Coach Grady is a little bit older, more experience. Tons of he was a really good player, and so he kind of has that to go. When he talks to guys, they listen because he knows about what's going on the court. And then the other side is Cesar is a young guy, but super, super energetic, very intelligent. He's already brought something to the table for our team where we've put together what we call a hound score. So we are tracking all kinds of stats. We're allowed 4 one-hour workouts a week right now. And in that time, we're filming, and Coach Flores goes back afterwards and watches the film, and then gives us a hound score for each player. So it's based on, are you boxing out? Are you turning the ball over? Are you making assists? We track hockey assists. We track crashing the glass. We track deflections, dives on the floor, things like that. And it kind of it takes a little bit of the subjectiveness out of hey, this guy's doing well or this guy's not. It's like, hey, here's how well he's doing, and if the players have any questions, well, why is my score low? Well, it's low because you turned the ball over 3 times, and that's -5. So anyway, that's kind of something he's brought to the table. So he's kind of got he's the new generation where it's analytics based, but he's also been around some great coaches. Chris Jan's highly recommended him. And so he'll be able to get some good input to our program as well.
Coach, you talked about the fact that there are different coaches that'll be working with you. There are different players, but it's nice that we got a couple of familiar faces that are going to be back on the court.
We do. We have 7 returners and eight new players. A couple guys that were all conference are coming back, and Ja'Cory Ely and Greg Johnson, Jose Murillo and Blase Chernovich, who are both all freshman team last year in the Lone Star. So 4 guys right there with a lot of experience. And then we brought in eight new guys, and I'm pretty excited about some of the new guys on what I've seen from them so far this fall.
So a mixture of JUCO kids and maybe one and dones, or are they all JUCO?
Yeah. So we have the whole gambit. We had 3 freshmen, 1 from Deming, New Mexico. We've got 1 in Jackson Kroll, a 6'11" center from Canada. We've got a 7'2" center from Chicago. So some serious size that you've probably seen walking around Walmart somewhere. We got a 1-year transfer in Lyron Bennett, who was a point guard for Pace University, who went to the NCAA tournament, and he was second in the nation in minutes played, so he was really an on-the-court general for them for an NCAA tournament team. We got Mario Whitley, a junior college transfer, Liam Canty, who's a Division II transfer, so kind of all over the board with who we brought in terms of using the transfer portal some, but still trying to build our foundation with high school players.
I know going into the season last year when we talked about the personnel, you said you really appreciated the fact that we had length, that we had guys who might be listed at a certain height, but their wingspan was that of a person that'd be much taller. So is length going to be a feature of this team as well?
Length is a continued feature of this team, yeah. And we've already measured wingspan for everybody, and there's some really good numbers. We can cover a lot of ground when we sit down and get our arms out and play some defense. So I think that really matters. We're trying to get as many deflections as possible. So when you got guys with, Ja'Cory Ely, who's got a 6'10" wingspan, even though he's only about 6'6", 6'7", that can really get his hand. Jose's arms grew an inch this summer, so he didn't grow an inch up, but he grew an inch longer. He's got a 7'3" wingspan. Jackson Carroll comes in with a 7'2" wingspan. Conrad Luzinski, the other freshman, comes in with a 7'4" wingspan. So yeah, we've got some length. Mario Whitley is a guy who's going to play a lot, and he's a little bit undersized and about 6'5", but he brings a 6'9" wingspan. So yeah, we've got some good athleticism, good length.
Looking back at last year, I mean, obviously we did a lot of things really well and led the conference in a number of categories. What was the one thing we had to upgrade?
Yeah, shooting, no question. We weren't very strong in that category, so we went out and got some new guys. Trayvon Love is a kid we got from Navarro. He made about 1.5 threes a game last year at about 36% in a really good junior college conference. We added Miles Tucker, who made 80 threes last year, averaged 20 points a game at North Iowa Area Community College. So tried to go out and add some shooting. Obviously, we're going to count on Blase Chernovich, who was our best shooter last year, to come in and make more shots this year as a sophomore. Junior Hodnett had another great summer. I've really challenged him to gain weight and get stronger so he can be more effective on the defensive end. And, when he came in, he was 165 pounds. I really challenged him to get to 180. He got to that last year, put himself in a position to get some minutes. This year I said, hey, man, I need you to get to 190. And he put on 10 more pounds. And it's not the pounds that most of us are putting on. It's the pounds in the weight room. And so he's in much better shape and ready to defend in the Lone Star. So, and he can obviously make some shots. So that's one area where we really hoped, that we could improve.
So looking at the schedule that you guys are going to play, Lone Star Conference is pretty much the same, but there's always a chance to add a few games, maybe drop a few teams off the schedule. So what's going to be different about this year's schedule? One
exciting piece is November 10th and 11th, and I hope people are hearing me. I'm going to repeat November 10th and 11th. Please come out to the arena. We are going to host the Conference Challenge, and that's a big deal for our program to get everyone to come to Portales to play. The women's program has it at the same time, so it'll be exciting. There's going to be 8 games in 2 days at Greyhound Arena. So it's us, Angelo State on the Lone Star side, and then it's Fort Lewis and New Mexico Highlands on the RMAC side. And we're going to face off, play both those teams. So us and Angelo will play those 2 other teams and crossover back-to-back days. So that's a really good home opener. We're going to return the favor and go up and visit Fort Lewis at their place. Adams State will play there, and then we'll play Fort Lewis on their home court. So we basically added 2 more Division II games, dropped 2 NAIA games. So we tried to increase our toughness in our schedule, thinking that we have a pretty good team that will be prepared for it. So that's exciting. We do have one exciting exhibition game that has not been announced yet, but it will be, I think, a game that will get people around here pretty excited, a game that they're going to want to go to. It's within driving distance. I'll give that sneak peek, but it'll be a fun challenge for us. That game is going to be right after Christmas in December.
Yeah, you already gave me a hint, so I was smiling. I kind of know where we're going, but we can't say anything until the contract is actually inked. Brent, talk a little bit about your relationship with the athletic director who came in after you were here for a year and the new president.
Yeah, so Dr. Weir, I think, is the best AD in the country at this level. He's off the charts, very intelligent, very hardworking, wants to win, cares about student athletes, cares about how we're doing in the classroom. I think if you just look at what's happening in the athletic department, it's pretty clear that he's taking this thing to another level. And then I've been very encouraged by Dr. Johnson. I'm a big fan so far. I think he's a good fit for this community. I think he cares about athletics. He's had an open ear and been willing to listen, had a meeting with all the athletic staff, just say, hey, what's working, what's not, how can we do better? So that's been really encouraging. So really encouraged by our administration. I think that's a big positive right now.
And another change that's taken place is we have a new strength and conditioning coach. And I'm here to tell you, if I was a player and he told me to do something, I'd do what he says, because he's a pretty intense guy.
Yeah, Corey and Nick, we have 2, and they're both doing a great job. I'm definitely seeing positive things out of that area right now for us in the fall. So they're intense, and they mean what they say, and they say what they mean, and the results are showing through.
Well, Coach, we've got about a minute left, so let's make a pitch for going out and watching the Greyhounds November 10th and 11th and watching them every time they hit the court. What are people going to see? What's the one thing that you hope every game people are going to walk away thinking about your team?
I think that they're going to see us, that we play hard. Like, we play really, really hard. We try to base our program on trust and toughness. So hopefully you'll see a team that plays together, that plays really hard. I think we've got a team that's going to be exciting to watch. The other day, Ja'Cory Ely tips the ball over somebody's head. He passes it with one hand up to Greg Johnson. Greg Johnson catches it with one hand, throws it off the glass, and Mario Whitley slams it. And it was like, I'd pay to go watch that. So I think you'll see some exciting plays, some guys who are fun to watch, and I think you're going to see some winning this year. And so I hope that that winning really gain some attention and bring some people into the arena. So, and before we get off here, Doc, I've got to say, I was on my way here and my son said, "Hey, you've got to say something about me and my brother." So, just want to say, give a shout out to Cruz and to Benham, who are just the joy of my life, and a lot of fun at home right now. A lot of wrestling going on right now. We got some Paw Patrol going on right now. Cruz has got a flag football team going on that's undefeated right now. So a lot going on there. And then obviously always a shout out to my wife, Ashley, who's she holds it all together for us.
I was going to say I've got a vested interest in thanking her, so, which is an inside story for another episode. But Coach, congratulations on the success you had last year. Best of luck this year.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And please come out and watch the Greyhounds play. We're going to be fun to watch, and you're going to enjoy yourself.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Stephen A. Smith is the most famous sports television personality in America today, and rightfully so. He does a great job on ESPN, but he's been taking a lot of grief for the last week because he threw out the first pitch at a New York Yankees game, and he bounced his pitch up to home plate. And that set me to wondering, does every sports television personality who throws out the first pitch bounce the pitch on the way up to home plate? Well, I think we've got some video of a sports television personality throwing out a first pitch. Let's take a look and see what you think.
Please welcome Dr. Donald Doc Elder. Catching behind home plate, also from ENMU, is John Hauser.
Yeah, that left-hander managed to get the ball all the way to the plate on the fly, so at least one sports television personality could not bounce the ball up to home plate. Well, that will wrap up an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guest, Blake Huber from Greyhound Women's Basketball, Brett Owen from Greyhound Men's Basketball. Once again, I had Ms. Ashley as my floor director, so for all of those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.